Okay, students, so let's get started with IGCSE Physics, October November 2024, Paper 2, Variant 1. Okay, so let's read out the first question. A student uses a meter rule to measure the length of a sheet of paper. Which measurement is shown to the nearest millimeter? Okay, now do you remember 1 meter is equals to 1000 millimeter? Okay, 1 meter is equals to 1000 millimeter. If I see option D, अगर मैं option D को देखता हूँ, what is happening? You have 0.3 meters. This is, if I convert this, चलो मैं अगर इसे convert करता हूँ, like whenever you are converting meters to millimeters, what will you do? You will multiply by 1000. If I multiply 0.3 by 1000, what will I get? 300 millimeter. But can you realize these two zeros are not significant? Beta, zeros at the end of a number are not significant. That means this is not written to the nearest millimeter. Let's do the same thing with option C. 0.29 multiplied by 1000. This gives you 290 millimeter. Again, the zero at the end is not significant. Hence, this is also not close to the nearest millimeter. This will also get cancelled out. Let's analyze option B. Option B को analyze करते हैं. 0.293 multiplied by 1000. This is option C. This comes out to be 293 millimeters. All three numbers are significant here. This is to the nearest millimeter. B is your answer. Why is option C and D not your answer? Because when I multiplied by 1000 there, I get zeros at the end that are not significant. Zeros at the end are not significant. That's why option C and D cannot be your answers. Option B is your answer. Why? Because when you multiply it by 1000, you get three numbers that are non-zero, non-significant. Hence, your answer in B is to the nearest millimeter. Perfect. Let's further move ahead. A rocket has an average speed of 6 kilometers per second for 2 minutes. What is the distance traveled? Okay. How will you calculate the distance? Distance is equal to speed into time. What is your speed? 6 kilometers per second. You will convert the time into seconds. 2 into 120. This comes out to be what? This comes out to be what? Oh, sorry, 2 into 60. My bad. 2 into 60. Why? Because 2 minutes, each minute has 60 seconds. What will your answer come out to be? 720 kilometer. C is your answer. The diagram shows the vertical forces acting on the ball as it falls through the air. The ball does not reach terminal velocity. Okay, ball terminal velocity reach nahi kar rahi. Which row describes what happens to the resultant force on the ball and what happens to the acceleration of the ball as it falls through air? Beta, as you are falling through air, what will happen? This air resistance force will keep on increasing. The force of air resistance will keep on increasing. Hence, your resultant force will decrease. जितना जितना आप air के through fall करोगे, your air resistance increases, resultant force decreases. And we know F is equals to ma. If your resultant force decreases, your acceleration will also decrease. Any options like that? A is your option. Resultant force decreases, acceleration decreases. Okay, let's move on to question 4. A coconut falls from a palm tree. At X, it has just started falling. Y is the point before it just hits the ground. ठीक है, X पे ये fall करना start हुआ है, Y पे it just hits the ground. What is the acceleration at of the coconut at X? Air resistance can be ignored. Whenever air resistance is ignored, acceleration की value क्या हो जाती है? 9.81 meters per second square. Whenever accelerate air resistance can be ignored, आपकी acceleration की value throughout the journey becomes what? 9.81 meters per second square. You can write this as a key point as well. Whenever air resistance is ignored, AR is air resistance, is ignored on Earth, acceleration becomes constant with a value of what? With a value of 9.8 meters per second square. So, what will be the acceleration at point x? The acceleration at point x will be 9.8 meters per second square. What will be the acceleration at y? 9.8 meters per second square. The acceleration at x is the same at the acceleration at y. C is your answer. Okay. A car is driven around a bend in the road at constant speed. So a car is bent like this. What is the direction of the resultant force? Whenever you are going through a bend, whenever you are moving in a circle, what is the direction of the resultant force? Perpendicular to the motion and towards the inside of the bend. हमेशा whenever you are performing circular motion, आपकी resultant force towards the center लगती है. See is your answer. The diagram shows a drawbridge that is attached to a wall by a hinge. Okay, so you have a hinge here. Perfect. At one end and a cable at the other. Okay. The weight of the drawbridge and the tension in the cable are represented by the labeled arrows in the diagram. There is a third force at the hinge, which is not shown. The drawbridge is in equilibrium. Which row shows a possible direction for the force at the hinge? अच्छा जी हमने बताना है कि what is the force at the hinge. The drawbridge is in equilibrium. Now listen carefully. Let's say this is a beam, okay, that is in equilibrium. Let's say we have three forces acting on the beam like this. Okay. Let's say we have three forces acting on the beam. Whenever a object is in equilibrium, whenever a object or a beam is in equilibrium, if you extend all the forces, if you extend all the forces, they will meet at a single point. बेटा जब भी आपका बीम या ऑब्जेक्ट इक्विलिब्रियम में होता है इफ यू एक्सटेंड ऑल द फोर्सेस एक्टिंग ऑन इट दे विल मीट एट अ सिंगल पॉइंट यू कैन राइट दिस एज अ की पॉइंट हियर एज वेल whenever an object is in equilibrium whenever an object is in equilibrium if we extend all the forces if we extrapolate all the forces they meet at a single point. बेटा जब भी आपका कोई भी ऑब्जेक्ट इक्विलिब्रियम में होगा इफ यू एक्सट्रापोलेट ऑल द फोर्सेस दे विल मीट एट अ सिंगल पॉइंट. Now let's check out option A. Let's say the hinge force is acting like this. Let's extrapolate the weight की force. ठीक है. This is your tension की force extended. Perfect. They are meeting at this point. I want a force at the hinge जो ऊपर ग्रीन वाले पॉइंट पे मीट करे. ऑप्शन ए कैन नॉट बी योर आंसर. लेट्स ट्राई आउट ऑप्शन बी. नाउ आई होप यू गाइस गेट इट कि हमने यहाँ पे क्या करना है. We have to apply all the forces one by one and see which of them intersect with these two forces because whenever an object is in equilibrium all the forces if extrapolated meet at a single point. Let's try out option B. If option B is extrapolated, yeah, option B can be a possible answer. Option C will not be a possible answer. Why? Because in option C, your force is acting like this. If I extrapolate it, it is not meeting at point indicated here. Can option D also be a contender? Yes, option D can also be a contender. It is also going through the same point. ठीक है. B और D में से कोई हो सकता है. A और C नहीं होगा. तो बेटा अभी तक हमने क्या बात की है. अभी तक हमने ये बात की है whenever an object is in equilibrium if you extrapolate all the forces they meet at a single point like this. Hinge वाली force, tension वाली force, weight वाली force, if I extrapolate it they meet at a single point indicating that the beam or the object is in equilibrium. I have also written a key point. Now we have two contenders. Either B will be your option or D will be your option because both of them are passing through this intersection point. Now I want you guys to focus further. I need your undivided attention. Please, please, please. There is a second important thing or a second key point that will make you a genius. Please focus on the board. Let's say I have this force in option B. Can I make the horizontal and vertical components of this force? Beta, can I resolve this diagonal vector? Yep. This will be your horizontal force. And this will be your vertical force. Now there is a problem. This is your horizontal force in black. This is your vertical force. There is a problem. Can you realize if you resolve the tension force, you have a horizontal force towards the left as well, vertical force towards the right. Now I want you to consider the forces in the horizontal direction. कैन यू रियलाइज बेटा हॉरिजॉन्टल डायरेक्शन में जो फोर्सेस हैं वो दोनों की दोनों कहाँ एक्ट कर रही हैं लेफ्ट साइड लेफ्ट साइड hence in the horizontal direction you are not in equilibrium because there is no balancing force on the right side b आपका ऑप्शन नहीं हो सकता sir why b is not an option because if you apply the force indicated in b the horizontal force comes towards the left टेंशन का हॉरिजॉन्टल कंपोनेंट भी टुवर्ड्स द लेफ्ट है in the horizontal direction you have both the forces towards the left you are not balancing things out okay so let's try out option D which is the remaining last option now option D satisfies the first criteria option D beta first criteria तो satisfy कर रहा है that is it is passing through the intersection point perfect. Now, the horizontal component of tension is acting towards the left. Can you resolve this hinge force into two components? Yes, this will be the horizontal force. This will be the vertical force. Can you realize the horizontal force of the hinge is acting towards the right? The hinge force of the tension is acting towards the left. The forces in the horizontal direction balance out. Hence, option D is the correct option. Why? Because option D may your force is such a force that if I extend it, it passes through the intersection point. Secondly, option D में जो horizontal direction में forces हैं वो balance out हो रही D is your answer. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Which equation gives the momentum change of an object? Momentum change किसके equal होगा? Force into time. D is your answer. Which statement about the use of nuclear fuel as an energy source is correct? It often no, it has no, no, no. The energy is released from nuclear fission reaction. That is correct for nuclear energy. The diagram shows an object of mass m projected with a velocity v from a point P to Q to a cliff of height h. Okay. The work done against air resistance is W as it travels from P to Q. What is the kinetic energy as it reaches Q? Okay. What will you say? Energy at start minus work done against air resistance is equals to energy at end. ठीक है बेटा always remember that your total energy remains constant. So you will say the energy at the start minus work done against friction is equals to the energy at the end. What is the energy at the start? 1 upon 2 mv square. What is the work done against friction? W. What is your energy at the end? You are at a certain height. That means mgh gravitational potential energy plus the kinetic energy at position Q. Take this to the other side. 1 upon 2 mv square minus w minus mgh is equals to your kinetic energy at Q. Any options like that? D is your answer. The diagram shows a Sankey diagram for an electrical drill. Okay, now how to read a Sankey diagram? Always remember in a Sankey diagram, you will be given a scale. The distance between two lines is equals to 40 joules. Okay, so what does this scale represent? बेटा Sankey diagram में हमेशा आपने क्या देखनी होती है width of arrows. Sankey diagram में you always have to analyze this width of arrows. Can you realize this arrow is one box wide? One box represents 40 joules. Can you realize this arrow is how much? One, two, three, four. Four boxes wide. ये arrow कितने boxes wide है? Four. If one box is representing 40 joules, four boxes कितने joules को represent करेगा? 160 joules. Similarly, you can do it here as well. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. 10 boxes हैं. In Sankey diagrams, you always see the width of the arrows. If one box is equals to 40 joules, 10 boxes किसके equal हो जाएंगे भाई? 10 boxes will be equal to 400 joules. Okay. So let's see what we have to find out. What is the total wasted energy shown by the diagram? The total wasted energy includes the sound energy and the thermal energy. Sound energy का जो arrow है, that is one width long. That is 40 joules of energy wasted. Thermal energy का जो arrow है, that has a width of 4, that is 160 joules of energy wasted. 40 plus 160 is equals to 200 joules of energy that is wasted. B is your answer. Let's further move ahead. An elephant has a weight of this, stands with all 4 feet on the floor. The pressure on the floor due to the elephant in contact with it is this. ये pressure आ गया, ये आपकी force आ गई, but this is the force for 4 feet. How will you calculate the force for 1 feet? या 1 feet या 1 पाँव के लिए force कैसे निकालोगे? 45,000 divided by 4. What does this come out to be? So देखते हैं जरा, 45,000 divided by 4. This comes out to be what? 11,250 joules is your force. Your pressure is this. You have to calculate the area of each foot. How will you do that? Pressure is equals to force over area. एरिया को लेफ्ट साइड पे ले जाओ. एरिया इज इक्वल टू फोर्स ओवर प्रेशर. फोर्स क्या है बच्चे? 11,250. प्रेशर क्या है? 3400. योर एरिया कम्स आउट टू बी व्हाट? 0.33 मीटर स्क्वायर. बी इज योर आंसर. परफेक्ट. Some air is trapped inside a metal container with tightly fit lid. ठीक है, ये एयर को हमने ट्रैप कर दिया है with tightly fit lid. The container is heated strongly behind a safety screen. The lid is blown off by the increased pressure of the air inside the container. ठीक है. What causes the increase in pressure? बेटा pressure increase क्यों होता है? Because as you are heating the air, the temperature of the air increases. The temperature of the air is directly proportional to kinetic energy. As temperature increases, kinetic energy increases. The air particles move more quickly. B is your answer. A very hot mug of coffee is placed near a large unheated swimming pool holding 2 into 10 raised to the power of 6 kg of water. Which statement is correct? कौन सी statement correct है? If the mug of coffee is tipped into the pool, the coffee will lose more internal energy. No. The energy loss and energy gain are always same. No. The internal energy, no. When the temperature of the coffee mugs fall, its internal energy decreases. Yeah, D is correct. बेटा internal energy क्या होती है? ये Q is equals to mc delta T. As your temperature falls or your change in temperature decreases, your internal energy will decrease as well. अच्छा जी, क्या लिखा हुआ है? A student measures the mass of water in an open container over 2 hours. The container is kept in a warm room. The results are in the table. Why does the mass of water change? Beta, as the time passes, 0 से 0.5 hours, 0.5 hours से 1 hour, 1 hour से 1.5 hour, 1.5 hours से 2 hour, mass of water is decreasing. Why? Why does the mass of water change or decrease? Because the water is evaporating. Simple. A 1 kg block of aluminium requires more thermal energy to raise its temperature by 1 degree centigrade than 1 kg of copper requires. Why is this? Beta, 1 kg of aluminium requires more thermal energy to raise its temperature by 1 degree centigrade than 1 kg of copper. Why is that the case? Because aluminium has a higher heat capacity compared to copper. C is your answer. Let's move on to question 16. A block of ice is at a temperature of negative 100 degrees centigrade. Energy is supplied at constant rate. The graph shows how its temperature changes. At which points have the ice completely changed the state to water and all the water completely changed to steam. बेटा कौन से पॉइंट पे जो है आइस कंप्लीटली वाटर में चेंज हो गई एट दिस पॉइंट टू फ्रॉम 1 to 2 which process is happening melting का process at point 2 your ice is completely changed into water 2 A or B cancel out at what point is water completely changed into steam बेटा किस पॉइंट पे water completely change हो गया steam में जब आप 3 से 4 जा रहे हो this is the process of boiling at point 4 you have completely changed into steam कौन सा आंसर हो जाएगा डी 2 and 4 water waves are reflected at a plane surface which property of the wave is changed by reflection direction of propagation हमेशा वेव की डायरेक्शन जो है रिफ्लेक्शन से चेंज हो जाती है ओके a light ray is passed through air glass and water at which point does the speed decreases बेटा स्पीड कब डिक्रीज होती है when you go into a more dense medium बेटा स्पीड कब डिक्रीज होती है व्हेन यू गो इनटू या लाइट एंटर्स इनटू अ मोर डेंस मीडियम ग्लास एक मोर डेंस मीडियम है when you are entering from air into glass your speed will decrease w is one of the options secondly जब आप air से water में जा रहे हो that is also going from a less dense material to a more dense material your speed will decrease y is also a point b is your answer w and y are your answer Plain water waves approach a narrow gap in a barrier. Which diagram shows the diffraction pattern that would occur? Diffraction pattern कौन सा होगा? A तो नहीं हो सकता, B भी नहीं हो सकता. C is a good option. In C, the waves are spreading out and the wavelength remains unchanged. C is your answer. बेटा ऑप्शन डी क्यों नहीं हो सकता ऑप्शन डी में wavelength after diffraction and wavelength before diffraction is not same that's why D is not your option same issue with B में क्या है wavelength after diffraction is not equal to the wavelength before diffraction बेटा diffraction में आपकी wavelength जो है वो change नहीं होती और A में क्या मसला है सर A में complete spreading out नहीं हो रही A में waves are not spreading out that's why I have not chosen answer A let's further move ahead A ray of light enters a transparent plastic wedge from air and is incident on the lower surface at the critical angle as shown. Perfect. So the ray of light is incident at the critical angle here. Perfect. The angle of incidence I, the angle of reflection R, and the critical angle C, in which diagram the angles are correctly labeled. So let's mark it ourselves. The angle of incidence is the angle between the incident ray and the normal I. The angle of refraction is the angle between the refracted ray and the normal. Critical angle is your incident angle as well. Critical angle is just like the incident angle marked between the incident ray and the normal. This will be your critical angle. Any options like that? B is your answer. Simple. Let's further move ahead. Okay. An object is placed 20 centimeter in front of a thin converging lens. The scale diagram shows how the lens forms a real inverted image. ठीक है lens जो है वो एक real inverted image form कर रहा है. Which row gives the focal length of the lens and the distance of the image from the lens. ठीक है बेटा focal length कैसे निकालेंगे? We know that if we have a light ray that is parallel to the principal axis as it hits the lens it will pass through the focal point that is this ये आपका focal point है now what is this focal point की length we know that 10 boxes 1 2 3 4 5 6 10 boxes on the x axis represent 5 centimeter 10 बॉक्सेस 5 सेंटीमीटर को रिप्रेजेंट करेंगे बेटा तो ये कितने बॉक्सेस हैं हाउ मेनी बॉक्सेस आर दीज 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 दीज आर 8 बॉक्सेस 8 बॉक्सेस कितने सेंटीमीटर को रिप्रेजेंट करेंगे x x कम्स आउट टू बी 4 सेंटीमीटर दैट इज योर फोकल लेंथ आपकी 4 सेंटीमीटर होगी देयर इज ओनली वन ऑप्शन लाइक दैट ए इज योर आंसर रेडियो वेव्स हैव एन Radio waves are electromagnetic waves. All electromagnetic waves have a speed of what? 3 into 10 raised to the power of 8 meters per second. What is the wavelength of a radio wave of frequency 2 into 10 raised to the power of 5 hertz? आपने frequency निकालनी है और आपने wavelength निकालनी है for a frequency of this. V is equals to f lambda. Velocity क्या है? 3 into 10 raised to the power of 8. Frequency क्या है बेटा? 2 into 10 raised to the power of 5. Can you calculate wavelength? Yes, 3 into 10 raised to the power of 8 divided by 2 into 10 raised to the power of 5. Can you calculate the wavelength beta? Yes, 3 into 10 raised to the power of 8 divided by 2 into 10 raised to the power of 5. This comes out to be 1500 meters as your wavelength. 22 का answer is simply D. ठीक है, आगे बढ़े चलो. Okay, a candle flame. Let's zoom out a bit. A candle flame is placed in front of a loudspeaker. Okay. The loudspeaker produces a sound wave. Sound waves हमेशा किस तरह vibrate करती हैं? Horizontally like this. That causes the air particles to vibrate. The vibrating air particles make the candle flame vibrate in the same direction as the air particle. अच्छा जी, candle flame भी same direction में vibrate कर रही है like this. Okay. Which row shows the direction of vibration of the candle flame and the nature of sound wave? Obviously, your vibration is from left to right. A and B get cancelled out, and sound waves are longitudinal waves. C is your answer. The diagram shows part of a magnetic field around a strong magnet. In which position does a magnetic pole experience the strongest force? Strongest force कहाँ पे होती है? Pole पे, point A पे. There is a current of 0.6 ampere is in a closed circuit. How much charge passes in 2.5 minutes? Charge किसके इक्वल होता है? Current into time के. Current क्या है? 0.6. Time क्या है? 2.5 minutes. 2.5 into 1 minute has 60 seconds. What will your charge come out to be? 0.6 into 2.5 into 60. This comes out to be 90 coulombs as your charge. C is your answer. Let's move on to question 26. Which two physical quantities have the units joule per coulomb? Electromotive force and potential difference both have the formula work done over charge. That gives you the unit joules per coulomb. A copper wire is placed in an electrical circuit and its resistance is measured. Okay, chalo, let's say the resistance here is R. The wire is then replaced with a second wire. Achha, first wire की लेंथ L है, एरिया A है, रेजिस्टेंस R है. ओके, नाउ लेट्स कम ऑन टू द सेकंड वायर. सेकंड वायर की लेंथ आपने डबल कर दी है, ट्वाइस कर दी है. ओके, एंड क्वार्टर ऑफ द डायमीटर. ओके, लेट्स हैंडल वन प्रॉब्लम एट अ टाइम. इफ योर लेंथ डबल्स, अगर आपकी लेंथ डबल हो जाती है, व्हाट हैव यू स्टडीड? रेजिस्टेंस इज डायरेक्टली प्रोपोर्शनल टू लेंथ. अगर आपकी लेंथ डबल हो जाती है, रेजिस्टेंस क्या हो जाएगी? डबल एज वेल, 2R. The game has not finished up till now. Your diameter, अगर यहाँ पे एरिया A था, diameter D था, now your diameter has become 1/4. What will happen? Please, 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 for the love of God, remember this relationship. Resistance is inversely proportional to diameter का square. Resistance क्या है? Inversely proportional to diameter का square. Sir, what will I do of this relationship? This relationship basically means that if your diameter goes from D to 2D, अगर आपका diameter double हो जाता है, आपकी resistance will get divided by 4. अगर आपका diameter thrice हो जाता है, your resistance will get divided by what? 9. जिस भी फैक्टर से आपकी डायमीटर बढ़ रही है, उसके स्क्वायर फैक्टर से रेजिस्टेंस कम हो रही है. जिस भी फैक्टर से डायमीटर बढ़ रही है, उसके स्क्वायर फैक्टर से रेजिस्टेंस कम हो रही है. इफ योर डायमीटर इंक्रीजेस बाय अ फैक्टर ऑफ 4, your resistance will decrease by a factor of 16, 1/16. ठीक है, जिस भी फैक्टर से आपकी डायमीटर बढ़ रही है, उसके स्क्वायर फैक्टर से आपकी रेजिस्टेंस डिक्रीज हो रही है. नाउ हियर what is happening? Your diameter is going from D to 1/4D. बेटा आपका डायमीटर क्या हो रहा है, 1/4 हो रहा है. You remember this relationship? Resistance is inversely proportional to diameter square. आपका diameter क्या हो रहा है, d से 1/4d हो रहा है, divided by 4 हो रहा है. तो आपकी रेजिस्टेंस को क्या हो जाएगा बेटा, मैंने क्या बताया था, रेजिस्टेंस विल गेट मल्टीप्लाइड with the square of this factor, that is multiplied by 16. Resistance will get multiplied by 16. ठीक है. Now can you realize your resistance was 2R. आपकी resistance तो already 2R थी due to the length. So multiply 2R by 16. What does your final resistance comes out to be? 32R. Simple. बेटा जो भी आपकी चीज डायमीटर में होगी, लेट से डायमीटर आपका हाफ हो गया, ठीक है, डिवाइड बाय 2 हो गया, तो रेजिस्टेंस में उसका ऑपोजिट फंक्शन लगेगा विद द स्क्वायर, मल्टीप्लाई होगा विद 2 का स्क्वायर, 4R हो जाएगा. डायमीटर अगर आपका डिवाइडेड बाय 3 हो गया, 1/3d हो गया, रेजिस्टेंस क्या हो जाएगी, स्क्वायर से मल्टीप्लाई हो जाएगी, मल्टीप्लाई बाय 9 हो जाएगी, 9R हो जाएगी. एंड बाकी मैंने 1/4d के साथ तो करके इधर दिखा दिया. You have to do what? You have to calculate the ratio of the resistance of the two wires. Resistance of first wire divided by the resistance of the second wire. Resistance of first wire R है, second wire 32R है, R cancel out, 1:32 is your answer, D is your answer. Which circuit contains a diode with a fixed resistor? C is your answer. Diode भी सही बना हुआ है, fixed resistor भी सही बना हुआ है. I don't think I need to explain that much. In the circuit shown, resistor X has twice the resistance of Y. चलो तो resistance X जो है हमने 2R कर दी, इसको हमने R कर दिया. Perfect. Which statement about the circuit is correct? The current in the cell, that is this current I, is greater than the current in the X. Obviously, the current in the circuit I will be a sum of what? Current in X plus current in Y. This will obviously be greater than the current in X. A is your answer. A 4 ohm resistor and 8 ohm resistor are connected in series with a power supply. A voltmeter measures the voltage across the 8 ohm resistor to be 36 volts. Okay. A voltmeter connected across the 8 ohm resistor measures 36 volts. Okay. What is the voltmeter reading when it is connected across the 4 ohm resistor? Simple ratio method. If your 8 ohm resistor is heating up 36 volts, 4 ohm का resistor कितने voltage heat up करेगा? Simple ratio method, 4 into 36 divided by 8, 1 to 18 volts. B is your answer. 30 का आंसर क्या हो जाएगा? B. Simple. Let's further move ahead. A metal rod is placed in a magnetic field so that is perpendicular to the field as shown. ठीक है. In which direction is the rod move so that there is an induced current? हमेशा induced current जब भी produce होगा, which law will you apply? Fleming's right hand rule. Your current flows from where to where? Y to X. इस तरह आपका current flow कर रहा है. Apply Fleming's right hand rule, magnetic field like this, current going upward like this. Okay. Where will your force come out to be? Force will come out to be out of the paper. Your thumb points out of the paper. Thumb कहाँ point कर रहा है? Out of the paper. D is your answer. Let's further move ahead. The diagram shows a basic electric motor. What are the names of the feature X, Y, and Z? X क्या है? Coil. Y क्या है? Carbon brushes. Z क्या है? Commutators. B is your answer. Let's further. Oh, and now this one is an interesting question. Question 33 is very, very interesting. Please focus on the board. The diagram shows two transformers P and Q. Each have 2000 turns on their primary coils and 1000 turns on their secondary coil. Both transformers are 100% efficient. Perfect. The secondary coil of transformer P is connected to the primary coil of transformer Q. Okay. So how is this arrangement actually happening? ठीक है, अरेंजमेंट है किस तरह से? लेट्स से दिस इज द प्राइमरी कॉइल ऑफ P. This is the secondary coil of P. This is the entire transformer P. This is the secondary coil. The secondary coil is connected to what? Is connected to the transformer Q key primary coil like this. And this is your, yep. थोड़ा सा मैं सर्किट को एक्सप्लेन कर देता हूँ so that you guys know what is happening here. This is transformer P. ये ट्रांसफार्मर P की क्या हो गई? प्राइमरी कॉइल. This has how many turns? 2000. This is the secondary coil of transformer P. This has how many turns? 1000. ये Q क्या है? Q की ये प्राइमरी कॉइल होगी. That has how many turns? 2000. And Q की ये क्या हो गई? Secondary coil. How many turns does this have? Again, 1000. Q provides a motor with a current of 0.2 ampere. अच्छा जी, यहाँ पे एक मोटर लगी हुई है जिसमें we are providing a current of what? 0.2 ampere. Perfect. What is the current being supplied to the primary of transformer P? So we have to calculate the current here. What is that? Okay, let's start. If you have 0.2 ampere ka current in the secondary coil of transformer Q, what will be the current primary in transformer Q? Primary coil of transformer Q में क्या current होगा? Can you see this is a step down transformer? जी, can you see this is a step down transformer? आपकी number of turns कम हुई है. This is NP, this is NS. Can you realize number of turns in the secondary coil is much less? What will be your current in the primary coil? Can anyone guess? हाँ जी, बेटा थोड़ा सा ध्यान करो. अगर आपका स्टेप डाउन ट्रांसफार्मर है, can you realize the number of turns has halved? Yeah, you can say it has divided by 2. है ना? Can you realize the number of turns from primary to secondary coil has divided by 2? In a step down transformer, if your number of turns जिस factor से भी decrease होती हैं, उस factor से current increase होता है. You can write this key point here. In a step down transformer, the factor by which number of turns decrease is the same factor by which current increase. बेटा स्टेप डाउन ट्रांसफार्मर में क्या आप देख सकते हो आपकी नंबर ऑफ टर्न्स डिवाइडेड बाय 2 हो गई हैं. तो स्टेप डाउन ट्रांसफार्मर में करंट क्या हुआ होगा? मल्टीप्लाई बाय 2. What quantity will I multiply by 2 to get 0.2 ampere? बेटा क्या चीज प्राइमरी करंट को मल्टीप्लाई बाय 2 करने से 0.2 एम्पेयर आ रहा है? व्हाट विल बी योर प्राइमरी करंट? 0.1 एम्पेयर. बट प्लीज डोंट बी excited and take C as your option because this is not what you have to calculate. You have to calculate the current in the primary coil of transformer P. Now, moreover, if the current in the primary coil of Q is 0.1 ampere, यहाँ पे secondary coil में भी 0.1 ampere होगा. बेटा जो करंट आपकी प्राइमरी कॉइल ऑफ Q में है वो ही आपकी सेकेंडरी कॉइल ऑफ P में होगा. अगेन रियलाइज फर्दर, This is a step down transformer again. Number of turns क्या हो रही है? Divide by 2. Your current must have gotten multiplied by 2. IP multiplied by 2 is equal to 0.1. What is the IP in the transformer P? 0.05 ampere is your answer. D is your answer. So the current in the primary coil of transformer P is 0.05 ampere. Easy peasy. Let's move ahead. Alpha particles are directed at a metal foil. Most of the alpha particle pass through the foil with little change in direction. A small portion of the particles are scattered back through large angles. What does this evidence suggest about the structure of an atom? Structure of an atom के बारे में क्या suggest कर रहा है? It consists of a charged center much smaller than the size of the atom, but most of the mass of the atom. C is your answer. Which statement compares the properties of alpha and beta particles? Alpha particles are less penetrating than beta particles, but alpha particles are more ionizing. B is correct. Which statement about alpha decay is correct? The nucleus changes to a different element. Yeah, क्योंकि आपका proton number change हो जाता है. Perfect. An explosion in a nuclear reactor spreads the cesium-137 across a large area. After 90 years have passed, the quantity of cesium present is 12.5% of its original value. What is the half-life of cesium? Let's say initially आपके पास 100% cesium था. After one half-life, it will become 50%. After another half-life, it will become 25%. After another half-life, it will become 12.5%. तो बेटा कितनी हाफ लाइफ से लैप्स हुई है? 1, 2 and 3. So you have undergone 3 half lives in how many years? 90 years. एक हाफ लाइफ कितने ईयर की होगी? 30 years. C is your answer. Simple. 38 पे आ जाओ. Which type of object rotate around the sun with an elliptical orbit? A. Planet क्या करता है? Around the sun rotate करता है with an elliptical orbit. Which statement about the sun is correct? The sun is powered by which type of reactions? Nuclear fusion reactions. D is your answer. To determine the value of the Hubble's constant, an astronomer measures the distance of the galaxy from the Earth. This is D. She also measures the speed of recession from the Earth. That is V. You have to calculate the Hubble's constant. V is equals to H not D. V क्या है? 5.2 into 10 raised to the power of 3. किलोमीटर की जगह क्या आ जाएगा? फर्दर 10 raised to the power of 3 is equals to H naught. D की वैल्यू क्या है? 2.5 10 raised to the power of 21 into 10 raised to the power of 3. Why 10 raised to the power of 3? Due to the kilo. Whenever we are removing the value of kilo, you multiply by 10 raised to the power of 3. Divide कर दो 2.5 10 raised to the power of 21 10 raised to the power of 3. Cancel, cancel. Your answer comes out to be 2.1 10 raised to the power of minus 18. B is your answer. This marks the end of the paper. If you have any questions, you can further ask.